Achari able to win it. Gudis got it to center. The Toronto tips it ahead. Lomberg is in. Ryan Lomberg scores! Ryan Lomberg, you gotta be kidding me! Let's go home, baby! In overtime, the Panthers win it 6-5.
Welcome to Project Panthers, a weekly podcast discussing your Florida Panthers. Now, here's your host, Brunswick.
What a week, what a month, few weeks, feels like an eternity. I just woke up. I am your host, Brunswick. The show is Project Panthers, and what a, series. I don't know what to say. Whatever. It's been something in Panthers territory. If you're hearing the sound of my voice, that means you found us on YouTube, Spotify, maybe Apple Podcasts, because things still seem kind of weird with that whole uploading process over there. Also available on other major podcast platforms. And by searching the World Wide Web for Project Panthers. You can find us on Twitter at PROJ Panthers, on Instagram at Project Panthers Pod, and on Facebook by searching Project Panthers. This is not going to be your typical show. I didn't really feel the need to break down each game individually. I mean, I know I'm a little late to the party with the show. I really needed some time to breathe after the series. It was something else. I wanted to collect my thoughts properly, but I don't feel the need to go through all 6 games. Just mention some key talking points from each one and dive into some post-game interviews and what the team might be up to in the offseason. So let's just get started, I guess. Game 1. I mean, Game 1 was so electric. It felt so damn good to watch a hockey game with the crowd and a playoff crowd specifically. The Cats were allowed to have 50% capacity in the building for this one, and they made it sound like it was 100% capacity. They were electric. It was, I got goosebumps just thinking about it. The crowd was great. If you were in that crowd, props to you, because my goodness, was it ever deafening, even all the way up here in Toronto, Canada. I heard it on my TV set. But the Panthers came out good too. They took the roar of the crowd and they utilized it. They were up 2-1, and they looked poised to compete in this series all the way through. They really did. But then in the second, Tampa Bay struck with 2 quick power play goals from Nikita Kucherov. So I mean, he was making his impact on this series immediately. And there was a lot of chatter actually before this series started about cap circumvention. That was the key phrase we kept hearing from fans and trickled into the news a little bit about cap circumvention and how the Lightning had circumvented the cap to afford Nikita Kucherov in their lineup and Steven Stamkos. They both coincidentally came back from injury and were ready for Game 1. Somehow they knew that Kucherov was going to be ready for Game 1 3 months ago. Whatever. I'm not going to accuse the Lightning of doing any of that nonsense, but I really don't think that there's a fair complaint. They didn't break any rules. As I touched on in our playoff preview episode, it's on the league to get ahead of this stuff. It's not Tampa Bay's job to police themselves in these kinds of situations. It's like in any fantasy league. I have a fantasy league with my buddies, right? And when we started the fantasy league, we knew we had to buckle down and think of every single possible exploitation that could be utilized to a general manager's advantage in our league. We got a couple of guys who are sneaky and cunning when it comes to that kind of stuff. So we had to think of that kind of thing. And unfortunately, the NHL didn't really think of this stuff and didn't consider this as an option. Or maybe they did and they just didn't care or didn't think it was enough of a concern to really be realistic. But again, it doesn't matter. Kucherov was in the lineup. Stamkos was in the lineup. He made an impact right away. But the Cats stormed back in the third. Huberdeau and Tippett both scoring in this one. Tippett actually had 2 points in his first playoffs game. So nice little debut for him. But somewhere in the third, things kind of fell apart. Barkov took a late hit from Coleman in the neutral zone. It was I mean, you could call it questionable. I don't know if it was questionable. It's kind of a weird hit. Playoff hockey is weird. It was rough, though. It was a rough hit, but to call it dirty or to require a suspension, I don't know, and definitely didn't warrant the reaction that Sam Bennett had because he chose to retaliate in a really stupid manner. I will just say that bluntly. He charges Coleman in the Panthers zone. Pretty blatant. He took like 10 steps, honestly. He really did. Coleman didn't even see him coming. Complete back turned. Bennett gets 2 minutes in the box. Probably should have gotten more. Could have gotten more. Refs were pretty light on him. League wasn't, though. Lightning, of course, took advantage of the power play. They scored. And despite the Panthers looking really good throughout this game, they were all over the Lightning. Vasilevsky was an absolute wall. Despite giving up 4 goals, he played incredibly in this one. And honestly, for the whole series. They almost ended it late in the third. They had a chance to win it a few times. Vazzy made a couple of big saves, and Uyghur had a shot block late. This was the downfall. He got caught watching the play. Braden Point, he sprung on the breakaway. Beats Bobrovsky with 1 minute and 14 seconds left on the clock. Cats never get it back. They're down 1-0 in the series. Nudavara, he actually led all the Panthers defensemen in ice time in this game with just over 22 minutes. Uyghur and Forsling, they did not have their best games and kind of set the tempo for that in the series. This was a killer game in the series for the Cats. I think they were the better team in this one, and Tampa just took advantage of the power plays. Panthers had no answer for it. No answer at all. It's like the Lightning were playing on easy mode in NHL 21. Just passing it around the Panthers as much as they wanted. I think the series would have likely gone differently if the Panthers won this first game. Game 2, we saw a little more rough stuff. Sam Bennett was suspended for his hit on Coleman in the third period of Game 1, so the Cats were at an immediate disadvantage, missing their second-line center for Game 2. Instead of dressing a 12th forward, Coach Q chose to go with a 7th defenseman, with Anton Strawman checking into the lineup. And Chris Drieger started this one. I don't really think Bob was the problem in Game 1. I think the defense and penalty killing was the problem in Game 1, but Drieger got the start. I guess Coach Q wanted to change some stuff around. But this was a classic Lightning playoff game. I know. I realize I just said classic Lightning playoff game. 3 or 4 years ago, we wouldn't have said this, but maybe not 3 or 4 years ago. They've been good for a while. Maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I wouldn't have said this. But they got off to a 2-0 lead in the first period, and they just kind of protected their lead from there for the rest of the game. Cats got a goal from Marchman in the second, but that was it. Lightning, they added an empty netter in the third after Yandel literally handed the puck to Yanni Gordon in the neutral zone. And the Panthers were down in Game 2. 2-0. But Vasilevsky was once again Tampa's best player. He didn't give the Cats anything. And they really missed Bennett out there. I think they just didn't have the same offensive punch that they've had up front over the last few weeks of the season and in Game 1. Missing, and Bennett is a clear proponent of that. So that suspension just really dug the Cats a big hole, unfortunately, with the power play and the following suspension. Game 3, the big story going into this one, as the Cats were trying to battle back and get at least a win under their belts in this series. It was looking pretty doom and gloom in Pantherland at this time, though, I will say. Online chatter, everyone was feeling really depressed. That second game really felt suffocating in a lot of ways. I mean, Drieger didn't even play bad. The team just couldn't get it done. They just couldn't get it done. But the big story going into Game 3 was Mr. Iron Man for the Panthers, Keith Yandel. Mishandle Yandel. After 2 glaring mistakes in Game 3. The second goal that the Bolts scored in Game 2 was one of the saddest attempts I've ever seen by a professional hockey player. Yandel just let the Lightning walk right past him. And then the softest little stick check. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Drieger was back in net for this one. But Yandel, because of those 2 plays, well, he was sitting out. Done. Iron Man streak is done. Bye-bye, Yans. You're out of here. He didn't touch the ice for the rest of the series. I mean, it's only what Panthers fans have been clamoring for all season long. But it finally happened. The Iron Man streak doesn't count in the playoffs. So, despite Yandel sitting out games that he could have played, it doesn't count against his Iron Man streak because it's a playoff game. So, it doesn't count as a regular season game. So, his Iron Man streak is still intact. What a coincidence that just 2 games into a situation where his Iron Man streak no longer matters, do we see him riding the pine in the press box. Interesting, right? It's almost as if there's been like these weird underlying nonsense going on with Yandel throughout this whole season. I'm not going to get any more into that. If you need to hear more about that, just listen to some older episodes because I talked about Yandel a lot this season. Kind of hard not to. But the Cats, Game 3, they got started early. Got it going quick. 2-0 lead in the first. Bennett back in the lineup, makes an impact right away, scores the first goal. Gudas gets the second goal, his first career playoff goal for Gudas. But boy, was it not great for the Cats after that. They had the worst period of the season in the second against the Lightning in Tampa. They were outscored 5-1. And the Lightning put up 2 power play goals in the last 6 minutes, and they led 5-3 going into the third. Oh, man. Oh, man, was this rough. That second intermission was depressing. Felt like it was all over. Like the Cats were about to go down 3-0 and not even sniff a victory in this series. And really, despite being the higher seed in this, going into this playoff series and getting the home ice advantage after a better regular season than Tampa, the Panthers were technically the underdogs. And even if they lost, I knew I wouldn't be disappointed if they lost this season. I mean, I'd be disappointed, but I wouldn't be devastated like I was last year when they lost to the Islanders and it felt like the whole damn sky was falling. But I wouldn't have been disappointed. I would have understood. But if they lose the series without winning a single game or really even seeming competitive for the last 9 or 12 periods, that would be a tough pill to swallow. It really would. But that's okay. These comeback Cats, they've been doing it all season, right? They've been doing it all season. I should have known better with these guys. I should have known better. Hornqvist scores a couple of minutes into the third period on the power play. Forsling, he ties it. Just over 3 minutes to go in the third. And the Cats have some life in this series again. But then, history. 5:56 into overtime. Let me set the stage here. Defensive zone faceoff for the Panthers. Lightning got their big names on. It's just a matter of time before they score, right? No. Cats break out after the faceoff. Vetrano gets the puck to Lomberg after a nice little bloop from Gudas in his own zone. Lomberg gets past Hedman. He's all alone with Vasilevsky one-on-one. Makes the move from right to left. Gets the puck right over Vazzy's glove. Top corner. Panthers win. Panthers win? That's right. Ryan Lomberg, the most unlikely of playoff heroes for the Panthers, gets it done in overtime. Cats win a game. They win Game 3. They're going back to Florida for at least one more game. First Panthers playoff win since 1996 when Mike Huff scored in double overtime against the Philadelphia Flyers in round 2. I do not count last year because I don't care what anyone says. Last year doesn't count, all right? I don't care. Some bullshit-ass playoffs those were last year. All right? Didn't count. But can I just talk to you about the feelings after this game? What it felt like. What it felt like when Ryan Lomberg scored that goal. My God, it was cathartic. It was. It felt incredible. You know, the Panthers were getting roughed up and bullied for the first few games, and this felt like vindication. This felt like, hey, we are alive. We have a heartbeat. We're still here. You're not going to get rid of us that easily. And going into Game 4, there was some optimism in the air for the first time since probably before Game 1. This one was a really physical game. There was a ton of penalties. Both teams were really deep into the series at this point, and boy, did it show how much they hated each other, because they were both taking liberties at times. I would say there was some rough stuff, and there was some dirty stuff that, you know what, was uncalled for. Uncalled for on both sides. I will not act like the Panthers were innocent in this, because this series got dirty, and it's playoff hockey, but you know, playoff hockey is always going to have that caveat of higher emotion, of more energy, of just passion. But this game was the one that really indicated to me just how much the refs had lost control of this series. I think they weren't controlling the guys enough. They were letting too many guys get away with way too much, and we had a mess of a series in terms of penalties for a couple of games here in the middle. Speaking of that optimism we had earlier, right? All that optimism in the air? Well, it was all for naught. By the middle of the game, the Tampa Bay Lightning were up 5-1. So comfortably sitting with a 4-goal lead in Game 4. Panthers just didn't do enough defensively. Tampa power play once again dominated. 3 goals in this one. Vazzy was a wall again, and he made 39 saves in this game. 39 saves. While Bobrovsky, on the other end, he was pulled after giving up his 5th goal on 14 shots. So he made 9 of a possible 14 saves before getting pulled. Drigger came back in. It didn't matter. Cats lost 6-2. So any hope that we had before this game, pretty much gone. Down 3-1. Going into Game 5. What are you going to do? It's do or die. It's do or die for the Cats. Coach Q looks to the future. He looks way down the line. Maybe not way, but pretty far down the line. Pokes his head out and takes a look. What does he see? A 20-year-old smiling back at him, looking happy, looking plucked, ready to chip in, be a member of this team. Spencer Knight comes out of the press box. He starts in goal in Game 5 for the Panthers. This was a big story. One of the youngest goaltenders to start a playoff game. And he joins some nice company with that. Names like Carey Price, Martin Brodeur, both 20 years old when they made their playoff debuts. I mean, those are 2 really good names to be in company with. Don't want to get ahead of myself, though. But this was a no-pressure situation. This was discussed online with people, and folks were saying, yeah. There was chatter about Spencer Knight coming in the net after Game 1, if I remember correctly. The goaltending was clearly an issue for the team, and people were wondering if it was if the night time was the right time. You know, the right time is the right time. Ooh. You love that version, eh? Don't worry. I'll record a cover for you guys. Maybe I'll make it the theme song for next season's episodes. No, I will not do that to you. I promise. I would not do that to you. Come on. I'm not going to punish my listeners, my loyal listeners. But yeah, this was a no-pressure situation for him, for Spencer Knight. He's had a hell of a year. World Junior Championships, Hockey East playoffs. What a year for him. Now NHL playoffs. If the Cats lose, whatever, they lose. They're expected to lose. They're down 3-1. What's the difference? 3-1, 4-1. Same stuff, right? Not much of a difference. So put him in. See what he's got. Both goalies have been absolute dog crap for most of the series. Team is expected to lose. Why not? Well, he gives up the first goal on the very first shot. Yep, that's how it started. But that's okay. That's okay. Because Spencer Knight has ice in his veins. Like legit ice in his veins. He stops the next 36 shots that he faces from the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Panthers give the kid 4 goals of offense, and they actually managed to win Game 5 convincingly. It felt like maybe everything was changing for this team. Spencer Knight is in net. They're getting saves. He made a lot of great saves in this one. Saves that I don't know if Bobrovsky or Driedger would have made. I really don't know. I can't say for sure because it's not like the defense played an incredible game. They gave up a lot of chances, but Knight looked phenomenal. There was some rough stuff in this game too, but the big difference for the Panthers in this one, they only gave the Lightning a single full power play all game. And Knight made some big saves on that power play. So, me thinks this made a bit of a difference. So, Game 6. Cats down 3-2. This was the game that really separated the men from the boys, as they say. This was a clear-cut example of one team having oodles and oodles and oodles and oodles of playoff experience while the other is just trying to figure out and traverse their way through this unknown terrain. Because the Tampa Bay Lightning put on an absolute clinic in this one from the start of the game to the finish. They knew what they needed to do going into this game, and they executed their game plan perfectly. Not to mention Vasilevsky, as I've said a billion times already, this season and on this podcast alone, he was a wall. He made 29 saves for the shutout. I mean, this guy is really something else. He's probably going to win the Vezina this year. I mean, you know what? Actually, he might not, because a lot of people are rooting for Marc-Andre Fleury and what he did in Las Vegas, but I don't know how you cannot give it to Vasilevsky. I don't think that there has been in my opinion, Vasilevsky's in the Hart conversation. And obviously McDavid is a lock for that award this year, but I don't think that there was a player that a team relied on, a single player that a team relied on more all year long for success than how much Tampa Bay relied on Andrei Vasilevsky through this entire season. And this game showed it. They got their couple of goals and clamped down because they knew Vazzy wasn't going to give them anything. Spencer Knight did give up 3 goals in the loss, but I wouldn't say anywhere his fault, and Bolts cruise to the easy victory, ending the series in 6 games. Now, my thoughts on the series overall, I don't know. As I said in our playoff preview episode, they needed to stay out of the box to compete with the Lightning, and they didn't. Tampa made them pay with their power play. Scored 8 power play goals in 6 games. Not a sustainable rate on the penalty kill. I also said they needed to beat Vasilevsky consistently to win, and they didn't do that. Now that's a tall task. It really is. He's no schlub. So trying to find a way to consistently beat Vasilevsky is not something easy to pull off. Kucherov had 11 points in 6 games. I mean, he absolutely dummied the Panthers offensively, and he and Hedman factored into 7 of the 8 Tampa power play goals in this series. That's just a disgusting statistic if you think about it. Their play all series long was Hedman to Kucherov. Kucherov fakes the one-timer, gets to point in front of the net, or Alex Killorn, who coincidentally they both led Tampa Bay in goals with 4 on the series, and both scored 2 power play goals in the series. Not that far-fetched to think that it was all power play, right? It really was. A lot of it was. That's okay. We knew it. We knew it going in that Kucherov was going to be a huge impact for this team. Getting him back was going to help, but I was at least hoping for a little bit of rust on his side. My God. He looks like he's been playing hockey for the last month. Anyway, for the Panthers, goaltending and defense were the glaring issues. They just couldn't compete at the same level that Tampa did. Would Spencer Knight starting game 1 in all 6 games have made a difference? Maybe. But how can you say for sure? The defense was just too weak. They weren't strong on the puck. They weren't strong on their man in front of the net. And the Tampa's big boys like Killorn, they honestly just feasted on the smaller defensemen of the Panthers. Navarra, Yandel, Forsling couldn't handle it in front of the net physically. But honestly, at the end of the day, I really think it came down to goaltending. Analytics say the Panthers outplayed the Lightning for most of the series, almost across the board. Drieger and Bob both posted sub 900 save percentages. So Drieger had an 871 and Bob had a terrible 841 save percentage in the series. Knight actually had the best save percentage in the series at 933, and Vasilevsky finished with a 929 save percentage. I think if the Cats just got some big saves in key moments like the Lightning did, the series ends differently, in my opinion. Again, would the improvement in goaltending make up for all the shortcomings defensively? I can't say for sure. No one knows. No one knows. And anyone that does is full of crap. Because no one knows. But I do know that the defense struggled a lot. But losing Yandel helped. It helped a ton. Panthers finished the series 2-2 without Yandel in the lineup. Never won a game with him. I know he gets a lot of blame, but his effort on that goal in game 2, like, again, such a joke. Weegar had a terrible series too. I think he was gassed. It wasn't in the play much offensively. He struggled to find his bearings against the Lightning's potent offense throughout the whole series. Anytime he jumped up, it felt like he got punished by giving up an odd man rush. I think the Lightning had a solid game plan of attacking Weegar's lack of foot speed, and they exposed that many times. I think Weegar also, he just really pushed himself so hard down the stretch, replacing Ekblad, and it seemed like the fatigue started to kick in the series. I think the same thing happened to Forsling, but I think Forsling, he still looked like the team's best defenseman at times throughout the series. At times. Huberdeau was a beast. Johnny Huberdeau came to play. Dominant offensively throughout this series. He was second in the team in the league in points after round 1, just behind Kucherov. You could see just how much he wanted to win this series. He was dying for it. Seeing how upset he was on the bench after the buzzer rang on Game 6, that was tough to watch. I mean, we were all feeling depressed, but seeing him head down, I feel like we've seen that image way too many times already. Alexander Barkov, I think he got hurt in Game 3. He took an awkward hit on the sideboards in the first period, left the ice, didn't play for the rest of that period, but he did play the rest of the series. Really only missed that little bit, but he didn't really seem the same after that. He didn't score a goal, wasn't taking shots the same way he was, and in his final 4 games, he finished with a -6 rating on the plus-minus side. He actually finished with a team worst -8 for the entire series. And I know Barkey plays in tough situations and played against Tampa's best competition throughout a lot of the series, but those numbers do not line up with the kind of player he is. I genuinely believe that he got hurt somewhere along the way. I think it was that play because it makes the most sense, and never recovered. But credit goes to Tampa. They shut his line down. I would have maybe liked to have seen more of Duclair on that line with Barkov, but honestly, Duclair looked so awful all series long. He was pointless in 6 games. Barely generated much. He was so dangerous against Tampa in the season series, so it was disappointing. I wonder if there was something physically ailing Duclair as well. Kind of looked like it. But overall, I think the Cats just didn't get the depth scoring that they needed as well. I mean, bottom 2 lines just weren't really a threat offensively on a consistent basis throughout the series. I think Tampa knew this, and they never really paid much mind to it. They shut him down well. They had the personnel to deal with them in the bottom 6. Brandon Montour, Marcus Nunivara, they also had a bad series. Just they provided literally no offense with 0 points between the two of them and a combined -8 rating. This was disappointing because these guys are pegged as offensive guys that are, at least Montour is. Nunivara is, a smooth skating defenseman that can move the puck decently, but Montour is supposed to be a offensive guy. He got some time on the power play as well, and he had 18 shots in the series, couldn't put a single one in. I don't know if I want either of these guys back next season, to be honest. We'll see. Nunivara is still under contract. Montour is a free agent. I wouldn't be surprised if the Panthers move on from him. Stralman, though, Anton Stralman, he had a great series. He's easily the team's most consistent defenseman throughout it. He made calm play after calm play, and he really showed what it means to have playoff experience. He was one of few guys to really have that calm, cool, and collected game all series long. I was ready to write off Strawman after this season, but this series was his best hockey in a Panthers uniform. I can comfortably say that, despite not showing up on the score sheet at all. This is Project Panthers. I am Brunswick. I'm dying to know what you thought of the series. Did you think the Panthers deserved a better fate? Were the refs absolute bullshit, like everyone said online? Did Bobrovsky blow it for us? Let me know how you feel after this Panthers loss to the Lightning. Comment on our YouTube page under this video, on Instagram or on Twitter by searching Project Panthers, even on Facebook. I want to hear what you think of this season. I want to know what you thought of this year, what you're hoping for next year. As for the post-series discussion and what's next for the Panthers, go to FloridaPanthers.com for the postseason interviews. They're all there from the players and the staff. Johnny Huberdeau, he sounded upset, obviously, but he did seem encouraged about where this team is going and the path they're on. There's some talk about Ubi maybe leaving in a couple of years when his contract expires, but he sounded confident in this team, and I think he was genuine when he said he wants to get it done with this squad. I think he was. Barkov was asked about his contract. He said they'll get it done. I think he said he's really happy in Florida. Also sounded disappointed, but he seemed hungry to start the season almost already and get right back into it. Both he and Huberdeau touched on how much fun they actually had this season, and after last year's moratorium of a finish to a season, losing to the Islanders, it felt like the franchise was going to collapse in on itself. These were positive signs, both really good signs to have your two-star players speak so fondly of the season they had despite losing the way they did. Bill Zito said that the Barkov contract is a priority for him. They'll be looking to get it done in what sounds like the next little while, so hopefully we hear some news about that. When asked about Anton Lundell, he said he will literally go to Finland himself to get the Finnish prospect and former 12th overall pick to Panthers training camp for next season. Billy Zito also emphasized how all the players are proud to be Panthers and how much of a sour taste everyone had in their mouths after they lost to Tampa. He said he's really excited to start next season because of this. He also touched on the expansion draft and basically said they've already done about 1,000 mock drafts at this point. It feels like they're ready. He also did say that he'll chat with Roberto Luongo, Coach Q, and Panthers goaltending coach Rob Tallis during the offseason to discuss the Panthers goaltending situation. And I quote, "We're going to review everything thoroughly and make a decision," and end quote. And on that note, we actually saw a post from goaltender Chris Drieger's girlfriend on Instagram. It was of Drieger sitting on a plane with text on the post that said, "Bye, Florida. Thanks for the memories." So, I mean, if that doesn't seem blatantly obvious to you, it appears that Chris Drieger's time in a Florida Panthers uniform is over. So, like many expected, we'll be forging on ahead with Spencer Knight and likely Sergei Bobrovsky. But we'll see with Bob. Interesting situation with him. He sat in the press box in the last two games of the series. He didn't even back up Spencer Knight. Not sure what message Q was trying to send with this, but he must have known that Drieger wasn't going to stick around long term, right? So it's a bit of a curious move for Coach Q to elect to put Bob in the press box and not even have him ride the bench in the final two games of the season. But I'm not surprised Drieger's going. He's an unrestricted free agent this year. He can sign with anyone he wants, or anyone who wants him, I guess. He should get some decent money, and I might even see him getting an opportunity as a 1A, 1B type situation somewhere. Maybe Pittsburgh, maybe Toronto throws a little bit of money on him to shore up some games with Campbell, or maybe even the Seattle Kraken look to sign him as their 1A, 1B goaltender, depending on how the expansion draft plays out for them. A little bit of news for the Cats. They re-signed defenseman Kevin Connauton to a 1-year, 2-way deal for $700K. Connauton was fine in the few games he played last season. This is nothing more than a depth signing for the squad, just like it was last year when he originally signed with the team. Other than that, we're basically just counting down the days to the expansion draft, which takes place on July 21st. And that's the first big event after the NHL playoffs, and as we welcome the Seattle Kraken Kraken, whatever, into the NHL as they're the 32nd team in the league. So we got a round number again, an even number in the league. None of this 15 Western Conference, 16 Eastern Conference bullshit that the league's had for the last couple of years. God, it's so Bush League in my opinion. But I digress. Let's just hope that the Panthers don't give away Verhaeghe and Bennett to protect Radko Gudas this time around. Please, none of that, Billy Zito, please. I trust you more than that, though. I really do. Don't worry. I trust you. I really do. I trust you. I promise. After that, it's the NHL entry draft taking place July 23rd and 24th, followed by NHL free agency opening up on July 28th. I will be doing an episode previewing what the Panthers might be looking to achieve during the two drafts and free agency, perhaps with some episodes scattered in between should the Cats do something that gets in the news, i.e. a Barkov extension, Mr. Zito. That'd be nice. But thanks again for tuning in. Remember to like and subscribe on YouTube. Catch us on Twitter at Project Panthers and on Instagram by searching Project Panthers. Also on Facebook by searching Project Panthers. But seriously, I genuinely want to thank you so much for joining me on Project Panthers, not just for this episode, but for the entire season. It was a great year for the Panthers. It really was. I feel blessed and honored to have gotten a chance to do this podcast for the first time during one of the most successful seasons in Panthers history. The future is bright for these guys, and I genuinely believe that for the first time in, well, ever, they're probably going to be pretty good next season. We'll see, though. Here's to a hell of a season and more success to come. I am Brunswick. Have a week.